I'm here with Mark O'Toole from Openlink at the 2017 AFP conference. We've been talking about big data analytics and AI and its impact on Treasury. And Mark, I wanted to ask you, what's a good industry where an example of big data analytics can make a significant impact, something that would illustrate the concepts that we just discussed?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess, really when you think about it, it's like energy companies are a good example of that, where they have so many data points and data that they need to analyze to make decisions along the entire supply chain. So let's take, if I've got oil, I need to consider moving oil from A to B. I've got decisions to make around freight, storage costs, freight options and transport options in doing that. And before I even think about that, I got to think about the price of that and what the market prices are that impact that, the volatilities. And then before that oil gets to a final destination, I've got to be looking at things like, well, do I refine that oil, or is it cheaper to go and unrefine it and sell it in the market? And in order to do all of that, all that data needs to be interconnected, because it's all somewhat relative to I've made the purchase of it, or I'm going to sell something. And be able to make those decisions in real time requires technology to be able to get insights into that.
So is that moving past the issue where you can run into paralysis by analysis? There's so many factors that it makes it very difficult. Are we saying that that big data analytics allows us to expand our scope and make a broader set of decisions versus just looking at some pure strategic directions that we have?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think there's a lot of stakeholders in the process of that, the simple illustration I just outlined. But in the aggregate, you've got all the big data. You can analyze it at the corporate level and see what the risk exposures are and report off of that. But also individually in each of those, there's somebody responsible for transport options, but they're working off essentially a single source of the truth, and making better decisions around the things that they are responsible for doing. And I think that's important. So you got the top-down reporting up, reporting down, getting that real-time visibility, the single source of the truth, and be able to make actionable decisions based on that.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you stopping by our booth and joining us on the Fintech HotSeat. Have a great AFP conference and next year. Just want to do a quick recap on some of the things we learned. The conference was great. They had the most attendees of any AFP ever, which is fantastic. The exhibit hall was laid out nicely. But I think it was the discussions most of all, the key topics that were under consideration that was most interesting to us. To summarize it, well worth it, whether you're wandering around the exhibit hall, engaging with people, talking over lunch, coming to our Fintech hot seats, or sitting in sessions. Just a lot of good conversations on that, how that impacts Treasury and what Treasury needs to do going forward. Hi, we're on the floor of the AFP conference. I'm here with Tom from TreasuryXpress, Treasury Management System provider. The concept of on-demand Treasury. What's the key takeaway that you would like to make for a treasurer who's looking at technology for visibility and funds movement?
Yeah, I think the key concept on demand really, it's not as some perceive just, I suppose, a light solution. What we mean by on demand is it truly is the ability to select it, see it, and purchase it seamlessly, without friction, and have the ability then to have the support of the whole team to work with you on demand. So I think as a corporate, there's always this perception that it is an extensive and an exhausting process to select, implement, and use a TMS. I think if it was 5 years ago, we'd be still having that conversation, say it is probably exhaustive. But I think now, with the way we've created an on-demand, I suppose, area and arena, it really is that seamless frictionless project. So as a corporate who is looking out there, perhaps with not very simple needs, but with perhaps vanilla needs of visibility, forecasting, even bank account management, there are options out there that don't require you to have a huge team and take an exhaustive amount of time out of your day-to-day doing Treasury. You have that ability now to have a system within 6 or 7 weeks.
What are some of the key takeaways that you've had from this conference, from either the show floor or from sessions or just conversations with people?
Yeah, I think some of the key takeaways, let's talk about our industry as Treasury Management Systems, Treasury Technology. I think everyone's now coming around to the fact, and Sam alluded to earlier with our conversation, that the status quo isn't good enough. No one's quite happy with the status quo, and they shouldn't be happy with the status quo. So we're really seeing now, I suppose, the eagerness to see what is disrupting the market, whether it be in treasury technology, whether it be in banking, whether it be in supply chain finance, or even looking at, let's say, payments. Everyone's looking for the next big thing, and they're very excited by it. They're no longer nervous by it, which I think is a big change. Even like 3 years ago, when people were coming to our booth, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I think now they're coming on board so that we've heard about you, we've seen things go on. That might be because we, chucked a load of money at it, but also I think it's because everyone's learning that the status quo can change very quickly, and it's exciting rather than being nervous or scared of it. So I think we're very excited what we've seen today. We're all very tired from talking to everyone. But I think the key takeaways have been that everyone's now adopting, they're eager about seeing what's out there, and they now see a true sort of disruption across all Treasury, which everyone's excited about.
Tom, there's a number of treasury management system firms that have received substantial capital infusions of late. So there's definitely a lot of interest in that. You've received one, and what are you doing with that? But also, how is that changing the industry? Is the industry consolidating to several players, and others are falling out, or what? Or just new players coming in? What are you seeing in terms of the impacts of this capital infusion?
We can start with what we're using the capital for, because I'm sure some people are interested. So we're looking at expanding our offering in the US market. We've had great traction over the last 3 years since we launched it. And what we're going to do more with the fund is raise awareness through marketing, build a sales team out, and looking at getting the acquisition rate of clients up. Because we have the ability to roll and keep the same sort of structure, but go across many corporates, we need to get that velocity going. Now, what other people are doing with their investment, I can't answer that, but it is very interesting. Everyone has their own strategy as well as what they want to do with investment, but I think ours is based around, and very similar, I think a lot of people are trying to do this, is raise awareness through sales and marketing and grow the business. Because now we are past the early adoption curve, we're now fully on the adoption curve, so we have to make the use of that and move forward.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me, Tom. Have a great trip home.